every day. Every day we come in here, it's all about winning. We walk into the building and we say, how are we going to get better today to help the team get better? It's all about the team. Bring it up. Bring it up. All right, guys. All right, look, this is a big week. All right, this is a big week. So today is a lot about the corrections from the game. Then we'll watch the film this afternoon and tonight.
Okay, let's get this right. First up the field. Set. Go.
Let's go to work, boys. Let's go to work. Just go to the ball. No, what are we doing? Get going. Go. Let's go. Now you got to get a good start now.
Ball.
Every time. Every time. Every time.
Ball.
Every time. Every time. Every time.
Does anybody have any rhythm?
Hey, let's go. Let's take some practice now.
Tempo, good tempo. Don't dance.
I chop, I swing.
Tempo, good tempo.
Here.
Go. Tempo, good tempo.
Chop, swing. Here, back.
Gotta get going. Tempo, good tempo. Woo! Finish it. That's beautiful. Nice and clean there. Elbows tight. Looking into the catch. Atta baby.
It is the Joel Orion Show on the My Team Media Network, and let's talk a little high school football, shall we? For the first time in probably 20 years, I am now freed up on the weekends as far as Friday Night Lights, Friday Night Football, Saturday football, whether it be on the high school or college level. Feels a little weird. And I know there's a lot of coaches in Section 5 who have walked the sidelines, whether it be an assistant or a head coach for probably more years than me, that probably feel pretty weird not being at a high school football game on a Friday night or Saturday. I want to bring in first-year head coach of the Canisteo Greenwood Redskins, Steve Donlin, as we charter these unknown waters and go into uncharted territory as parents and players, coaches, administrators, athletic directors, superintendents. This is a fluid situation, and it is changing almost weekly. And so I wanted to chat with Coach Steve Donlin, get his take on the situation and where the team is, and do a little bit of a preview, I guess, of the team, hopefully, when they play this year. He has been extraordinarily successful as a assistant head coach for the Hornell Red Raiders. We'll get into that a little bit more in the interview. He is a graduate of Canisteo, and he is back at his alma mater as the varsity head football coach. Let's bring him on. It's Coach Steve Donlin. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, Coach, when we initially spoke, September 21st was really the date, and that was when the low-risk and high-risk sports in the fall could start practicing. But the low-risk sports were also going to play games, but the high-risk sports were going to start practicing, and the season was up in the air. But now the verdict has come down on that. Talk to me about where we stand with the fall sports, and more specifically, where your program and your team, when it comes to high school football, stands with its fall season.
Yeah, so we, New York State has moved football back to a March 1st start, along with volleyball. I'll say that again. I don't know what the heck they're thinking with that, but football is going to start March 1st.
So training camp for high school football and fall sports like soccer normally starts up mid-August, late August, right after the Steuben County Fair in that area. And then football normally kicks off that Labor Day weekend, depending on how the calendar falls. But because of all of this, teams have not been able to get together as an organized sport and practice on school grounds. Now, I don't know how many programs have done this, but you guys as a program at Canisteo Greenwood have actually gotten together and have been practicing for a while, just not on school grounds, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so we've had to go out, get our own insurance, which is expensive. But the community stepped up. Coaches have stepped up. They've paid, and then parents are sending their kids with money. The community wants it, and that's the way it has to happen right now. We can't be on school grounds. We have to form a club, which we've done that. We practice behind the Legion, who has graciously, offered their grounds to us, and that's how we had to do it throughout the summer. We were looking forward to the 21st to get back on the school's insurance, to be honest, and then get on their grounds, which may still happen. Okay. But that's how we had to do it for the summer. We've been going 3 days a week. So
with football being moved to March 1st, will there be a state playoff when it comes to high school football? No, that was the same thing that Coach Kohler gave me last night. There's not going to be a championship for football. Okay. There may be for other spring sports, though. It goes without saying it's totally abnormal to start playing high school football on March 1st, especially in the Northeast. And it's new to everybody, but as we move into this new normal, I guess, what are some of the pros and or cons in your mind starting on March 1st with high school football? Yeah, it's the thing that I've been really proud about with our kids, and the message our coaching staff and our coaching staff has been phenomenal. I mean, I have most of my coaches are down there. The 3 nights we're there. The message has never been we're hanging our head on one or the other, right. And this is really, it says a lot about our kids. When that message came out, that was Wednesday night, and we had a practice on Thursday. And, as a coach, you're like, geez, who's going to show up? Right. We had the largest number of kids we had all summer. Wow. So, number one, though, and you have to understand, I mean, the kids need us. They need something. They need guidance. They hear this news, and they have to be able to look to their parents and their coaches and their teachers. And kids are lost. And throughout all of this, a lot of the things that were going on, kids they have no control over. Mm-hmm. And if we're not there for them, we're doing a terrible disservice. So our plan, and we talked about this a little bit, and we're not really sure about how other sports are going to work and how things are going to go, so we might have some more conversations to have. But I want to continue our practicing 3 days a week. I want to be there for kids. I want to keep them with their eyes on a prize somewhere. Going towards spring, so I want to keep going until November, 3 days a week. I think that we'll have a good turnout for those. I honestly do. I mean, kids want to be doing things, and we have to do things for kids. I could just see, if you don't have programs, what are kids going to turn to on their weekends? They're going to drink and they're going to smoke, and they're going to turn away from the things that are keeping them focused. Yep. And so, our most important job, as I've said to our staff, and they all understand it, our most important job is to be there for kids right now. Mm-hmm. It's not about winning games. Yep. It's not about winning championships. It's about keeping kids right with the right mindset right now. Yep. I mean, there's so many dangers out there for kids right now. It's being ignored, because there's so much about shutting down schools and all the dangers of going to school and how dangerous this virus is, which it is. Mm-hmm. It is dangerous. Yep. But it's also, when you look at it as a teacher standpoint and a coach standpoint, and obviously, as a parent, mm-hmm. there's a lot of things going on in kids' heads right now, and we have to keep them. We got to keep them with their focus, and that's what I hope to do. Joining us is Canisteo Greenwood head football coach in his first year, Steve Donlin. Now, Coach, you're on record as saying when this all started coming to fruition as regards to who could play, who could practice, when the seasons would start, you said that it should really be all or none because, now you have some players that have been practicing and getting ready for football, and now there won't be a high school football fall season. And if they had known that, maybe they would have opted out of practicing football and maybe played another fall sport, a low-risk sport that's actually going to take place. If a player now comes to you knowing that there will be no fall high school football season and says, Coach, I want to opt out and stop coming to practice and I want to play this sport this fall, would you be okay with that?
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm in this for kids, and I know kids haven't, at least even maybe in competition, haven't done things since February, or maybe haven't practiced since March, and so we're all in this for kids. Mm-hmm. And we talked as a staff about this, and we haven't addressed it yet with our players because we, as you said, it's fluid and we don't know what the situation is. I think that what we would find is we'd have a large majority of kids who would want to continue to practice football, and I know you would. I mean, it's just inevitable that you'd have kids who might want to go and play soccer.
Right.
I teach at Alfred Elmond, and my best friend is the Bert Turner is the varsity coach up there, and I see how great soccer is for kids.
Yep.
My kids that I teach. So I'm in it for kids.
Sure.
If there's someone who wants to go out and play and be competitive,
right,
I support them.
Right.
And I know that might sound weird to some people, or say, yes, we're going to get a lot done this fall in football. Kids can catch up.
Yep.
We'll be fine.
Yep.
I want them to do what's best for them. And,
sure.
And so that's one part of your question. The other part is, the all or nothing. These ADs and superintendents and Board of Education haven't decided whether soccer players have to wear masks or not. And so what if one team wears masks and the other team doesn't wear masks? What a disadvantage it is for the team that's wearing masks.
Now, March 1st, is that when practice can begin for football, or is that when the season and games will start, is around that date?
No, that would be our August 17th or 24th, so that would be our first day. And then you have your 2 weeks to a scrimmage, one more week, so probably 3 weeks of practice there before you get your first game.
Moving the season to March 1st, so starting the practice March 1st and going out from there with no state playoffs, that does truncate the season a little bit for high school football. But will there be conflicts with other spring sports, or will they not overlap too much?
Well, the way I see it, Section 5 has been on top of this pretty well. And so Section 5 has been working on a schedule. We know we're not going to have, let's face it, we're not going to have readings exams this year. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have state championships. So you can really push your scheduling out to July.
Oh, okay.
So you can play all the way out there. So, okay. I coached softball with John Gemmel at Alfred Elmond, and we played, in the state championship a couple of years ago. You were there, and we were there in the middle of June. Well, wouldn't it be great though, as a softball baseball guy? Yeah. I look there and say, geez, if we started in the middle of May, and you're going to practice, you're going to play week 2 instead of being in a gym for a month and a half, the way we normally do it. Mm-hmm. I'd be all for starting later. So I think Section 5 is looking at, hey, we can push these dates back a little bit and give more room. So they may overlap, obviously, a little bit, and we have to be good. We got to be good with that. All the coaches need to be good with that, but I think we could make it.
I guess one silver lining, Coach, is maybe for parents who have kids that play high school football and maybe another sport, whether it be cross country or soccer, can now maybe, go to, the one child's games now, and they're not split and having to make a choice. And for coaches like yourself who have little ones and kids that play sports themselves in the fall, you're now going to be able to, go to their games more than if there was a high school football season.
Yeah, there's this whole thing. There's always small blessings, and you got to look for them, especially in these kind of situations. But we've got to spend a lot of time. Me and my 3 kids. I have a daughter that's a junior, Ryan, and my son Brogan's in 8th grade, and my daughter Kate's in 7th. So if they're playing sports, obviously I'm going to be able to make everything that they do, and do that. Honestly, there's one thing I've always wanted to do, and I've never been able to do it, is to go to a football game at West Point. Oh. And so I always said, whenever I retire from football, I'm going to do that. I want to go in October where the leaves are going. So you never know. Honestly, I swear I was thinking about that this week. I'm like, I could do that quicker than when I'm 60, Maybe I could catch it once. So, there are small things, and we talk about that. You have to look at the positive things because you can get overwhelmed with the negative. If you're looking at the news and you're looking at other things, you can get overwhelmed with the negative. So, you got to focus on those positives. And there are. There's times with friends and family that we get extra, and you cannot undervalue that.
I know people, get very, upset, and this is a very sensitive topic, but certainly, I don't envy the administrators, the ADs, the superintendents, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, the executive director, having to make decisions on these things. And I know that it pains them to make these decisions because there are ramifications for these decisions that don't necessarily maybe affect them, but they know they affect these young student athletes, especially if these young men and women are seniors. We saw that in the winter sports where, there was a couple local teams that were senior laden that made it to the state playoffs and it got shut down. So, it's got to be hard for a youngster to say, well, wait a minute, less than an hour away, south across the border, PA, they're playing high school football. Syracuse University, they're playing football. How come we can't play football? But I guess, Coach, as we know, and you learn this as you get older and move on, life isn't fair. So I guess this might be a good life lesson, and one of many times they'll see that life is not always fair.
Well, there's one. I always come back to this. I'm a history teacher. When we start thinking this is unfair or poor me, right. My dad was 22 and got drafted to Vietnam.
True. Yeah.
So, this is very hard, and I don't want to underestimate how hard it is. Mm-hmm. But generations before us have done this. They've done this very exact same thing, as a matter of fact, and they've done harder. Yeah. So, we can do that, and these are lessons we got to teach our players, right? These are things we got to say to our players. Yeah. But jeepers creepers, I'm not on a Higgins boat going to Normandy, right. And so we can do this, and like I said, we got to be there for kids, and we will. Yep. But we got to keep it in perspective too.
One last question about the season being moved to the spring in March 1st, and then we'll move on to the team specifically. We all know what the weather can be like around here in Western New York, and March 1st is awful early. Let's hope that the snow is all gone. But you guys are one of the teams that play on natural grass, so we don't know what the conditions will be like and the field conditions will be like in March and in April and May. There are some schools around here that have artificial turf, whether it be high school or college, depending on the condition, and obviously you just want to play no matter what the conditions are. But if the conditions are not playable on a grass field, could the games be moved to a Bath, a Hornell, Wellsville, AU, A-State if the field condition is an issue?
I think Alfred State and AU are going to be packed, to be honest. They're putting all their sports into the spring. Right. So that means everything's playing at the same time. They're probably going to be packed. Now, I have a couple connections up at Hornell, so right. Who knows? Right. Who knows? Yep. I'd be willing to look at that if indeed the field is unplayable, or at least, it's going to bring up different things. There's something I've thought about, to be honest. To answer your question, I just don't know what the answer would be. I have thought about Alfred. It's right down the street from where I live, but I think they are going to be packed because they're going to have, lacrosse and football and soccer, and I don't even know what, AD Vecchio is going to do with how he's going to play in that stuff. So I think more than likely, if we said, hey, we'll take Saturday night, if we could play Saturday night and you guys play Friday night, or, something, if it works out. Yep. Hornell and Kansas have always gotten along really well, so that could happen.
Joining us, first-year head coach of the Canisteo Greenwood Redskins, it's Steve Donlin. And that is basically all of the technical stuff, the off-the-field stuff that we covered with all of the changes on when the season is going to get moved and when games will begin and if players can opt out, if there'll be conflicts in the spring. Part 2 of our interview with Coach Donlin, we'll talk more about this year's team as it's constituted, the players coming back out. We'll talk about the season. We'll get his expectations, his thoughts on how Canisteo Greenwood did last year and a little bit of his background as a high school football coach as well. That will be in part 2 of our conversation with Canisteo Greenwood head football coach Steve Donlin on the My Team Media Network.